that you found out that your dad is not your biological father. Can
Yeah,
you
this was pretty
tell me?
insane.
Yeah, dude, that is fucking insane. I when I read that, I was imagining if my dad called me and was like, "Hey, by the way, I'm not your biological dad." How did that conversation come about? What was the build up to that?
So I haven't really told many people about this yet because I just haven't known how to. It's such a weird thing to just, I'm not going to like post a Facebook status about it. I figure if I talk to you about it, like people can at least hear it from me versus it just like going around and being hearsay.
Yeah.
So I've always been interested in my ancestry. Like I come from a small town with a strong Czech and German ancestry, and like my great great grandfather settled on the farm where I grew up in the 1800s or whatever. So I've always been interested in that. And then like I started dating a girl from Italy, and I'm like, God, I wonder if I have any Italian in me, because who the fuck knows? And then Ancestry DNA or whatever, they had their tests on sale for 50% off for Black Friday. So I'm like, fuck it. I've always been interested in doing this. So I ordered it, and you just spit in a tube and you send it in. A few weeks later, they email you your results. And I get it back, and there's like a lot of Norwegian in there. I still had like the Czech and German and that stuff. I'm like, what the fuck is this Norwegian? Like I never remembered hearing anything about that when I was younger. And so I just casually forwarded that to my mom. I'm like, what's the deal with this? And she just didn't say much. She's like, oh, can I come over today after work? I'm like, sure. So she comes over and like sits me down. It's like, I got to talk to you about something. I'm like, what the fuck is this going to be? Tells me that my dad was unable to have kids, so they used a sperm donor to have me. Holy shit. Just crazy thing to find out at age 25.
That's wild. I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine what my response would be to that. Did your mom or your dad, did they have a plan to eventually tell you, or was it more like they could tell you were eventually going to find out if you went down this rabbit hole, so they kind of just told you?
Well, they said that when they had originally done it, they had planned to tell us when we got older, I guess. I don't know if there was a certain time, but then they got divorced when I was in like middle school, and not a good relationship there at all. Like they don't talk or anything. So obviously as time went on, like I guess they just never told us. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like I had also been getting like messages on that Ancestry account where like I would have found out the next day if she hadn't come over and told me. So as far as I'm concerned, like I never would have known. But I don't know. They said that back then, like they didn't really tell you how to handle that. Like it was almost encouraged to just keep it hush hush. Who knows? Because of like church and stuff too, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, I guess they're more encouraged to tell kids as early as they can. But yeah, it was really tough for a while after that, because it's like you just kind of replay your whole life through this new lens. Like everything you thought you knew was about your identity and like how you were born and who you are. It's like you have to just reconsider everything.
Do you feel the drive to reach out to this other person, or is it more just like a technicality where you're secure in who your dad is, but you just know his sperm didn't make you?
Yeah. Well, as far as my actual biological father, I was able to find out in like 10 minutes with the power of the internet after she told me like who it was. And he lives like fucking 15 minutes away from me. And then
Oh, no way.
I guess there's like a Facebook group of like 30 plus half siblings that I have that are also from his sperm, which is just like,
So
I don't know,
he was cranking it out back in the day. He was
yeah.
he was doing a side hustle, trying to start his own business.
Well, yeah,
like,
it's like
shit, 50
he's
bucks
just a
a pop.
college kid. Yeah, he's just a college kid getting some beer money probably. Like it's just crazy to think that that's how I was actually made. But yeah, I don't know. At some point in the future, maybe it would be interesting to see if there's like certain things about me that, oh, that's where I get that, or that's why I act like that. But at this point, I'm not really ready for that or interested in that right now, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one thing that really made me reconsider a lot of things in my life. Like that was a big motivation for me to actually go through and quit my job. Like fuck it. It's pretty weird how I got here, so let's do some crazy shit and keep life interesting.
Yeah, like the story that you thought was the story of you for so long turned out to be different. So then that kind of sparked a fuck it mentality where you're like, how do I know that the story that I told myself would be my future isn't bullshit too? So not
Yeah,
that the story of your uh, parents using a sperm donor is bullshit. I just mean more of like the uncertainty of the whole thing. You thought something was one way for 25 years and then it wasn't. What's to say that the life that I picture for myself, why does that have to be a certain way? Why not just say fuck it and go for it?
yeah, exactly. It's like I understand why my parents didn't tell me, and maybe it's good that they didn't because I'm happy with who I am and how my life is. Like maybe it's who knows how things would have changed if I had known before. But yeah, now it's just like it doesn't really matter. So that's why I'm like I'd rather just have it be out in the open, like it probably always should have been. But it's just weird to like bring that up to people.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I've never had a kid. I plan on having one someday, but I imagine it's pretty hard too as a parent to find the right time to bring that up. Just be like, you know, what do you want for dinner? Also, your dad's not your dad, but
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know, because you probably are assuming worst case scenario where your kid may resent you, or maybe
Mm,
you don't want them to try to find that person, or I don't know what was going on in their head
mm,
because I'm on them, but it's just like a lot of uncertainty that makes it harder to start that conversation.
for sure. And yeah, and I don't hold any resentment for them or anything for that, but it's like, come on, like a person's got to know who they are. Like you're growing up and trying to figure out who you are and what you're supposed to do in this world, and you don't even know the most basic fact about who you are and why you're here. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if tonight, if I found out that my dad was not my biological dad, it would make me question a whole bunch of shit. Because there are things that I assume that I get from my dad, and then if genetically my dad isn't a part of me, then I'd be wondering, okay, like what is the person like that
Yeah.
put that there, or where does this shit come from, or these impulses that I always thought were, uh, just passed down from my dad, or talents or whatever. There was actually there was someone else that was a part of that too. Not saying that your dad wasn't part of the things that were passed down to you, but just genetically, there are some things that, whether you like it or not, are just who you are.
Oh, 100%. Like
It's
looking back, some things make a lot of sense. Like it's like, okay, yeah, that because I mean, I don't look that much like him, even something as simple as that. But yeah, just as far as like music, I'm huge into music. Like my dad isn't really a big music guy, like things like that. But yeah, everyone I think should consider taking one of those tests because they say that you never know what you'll find, and there it is maybe kind of sketchy to give your genetic information to a private company like that. So I can see why people may hesitate to do that, but you seriously never know what you can find. And the weird thing for me is like I don't know anyone else personally who's taken one of those tests, so it's pretty interesting that like I was driven to go and buy this test and take it when like I was the one that actually had something to find out.
Yeah, my parents actually have a story like that where I think it was my dad who sent in a test on 23andMe before the shutdown started and found out that he has a living half sibling that lives within 15 20 minutes. And I haven't spoken to him about this in a while, and it was terrible timing because everything kind of lined up where they were possibly going to meet, and then the coronavirus happened, so it kind of threw everything off kilter. But I remember my dad told me about it. He's just like, yeah, I did this test and it came back that I was a high percentage match with someone else that had taken the 23andMe test and found out that they were half siblings. I was like, that's fucking wild that you could take a test just
Yeah.
unknowingly.
It's wild that they can do that, and it's wild to find out.
Yeah. Yeah, so now I'm excited and nervous to take a test. I'll eventually bite the bullet and see what happens.
Yeah, it's just something I would have never expected, and no one would expect.
Yeah. So